Hello and welcome to another episode of the Queen Amy Show. Today we are diving into the mystical and fascinating healing modality known as Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, or QHHT, developed by the late Dolores Cannon. QHHT is a unique approach into past life regression that goes beyond traditional hypnosis, enabling individuals to access profound insights, heal emotional or physical issues, and connect with their higher consciousness. It's a powerful tool for uncovering past life experiences that can help us better understand ourselves, navigate life's challenges with a renewed perspective. And today's guest is Jeroen, a highly experienced QHHT Level 3 Past Life Regressionist, originally from the Netherlands. His journey into the world of past life regression and energy healing began with a powerful spiritual awakening of his own in 1997. And it inspired him to seek healing and ultimately led him to the work of Dolores Cannon. In his early 30s, he came across Dolores' book featuring an ET on the cover and instantly felt a connection with the work. In 2006, he had the honor of studying directly with her and becoming a certified QHHT practitioner. For the past 18 years, he's dedicated himself to helping others explore their own past lives, reconnect with their authentic selves, and rediscover their self-worth. Get ready for an enlightening conversation today on healing, authenticity, and self-discovery with the incredible Jeroen, but also we're going to talk about some aliens and ancient history as well. So definitely stay tuned. Excited to get the conversation rolling. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. Such an honor to be here.
And you cracked me up because as I was researching you, you do correct and help people learn and pronounce your name. And I know I probably butchered it twice already. So I would love, can you just teach all of the audience how you say it? Because it is very unique and very cool. I know it's common there, but I would love to hear how you say it.
It is Jeroen.
Jeroen. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep working on that. My gosh, I'm so excited. So just really quickly, I started really diving in pretty recently to the spiritual world and learning so much more just about myself. And I had the most incredible, beautiful plant medicine experience at a healing retreat I went to for military veterans. But what I realized recently, listening to some of your content, is actually my journey started years ago. When I was in Afghanistan, I was on my way back home on a leave, and sitting on the coffee table of the airport that I was in was this book. And it was Many Lives, Many Masters. And I wrote down the author. Let me just see if I can find it here. Brian Weiss, yeah. And I read that book and I was so drawn to it. And you reminded me last night when I was listening and reading some of your content. Your journey started when you found a book on a coffee table as well that you were really drawn to. And I thought that was such a cool, I don't know, synchronicity. But I really got interested and intrigued about what that meant in past lives. And is that true? And is that real? And I had that plant medicine journey recently, and man, was I just so confirmed that that is absolutely such a real, true experience and true thing for us. And so I'd love, tell the audience just a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field in your own words.
Sure. So yeah, I come from a long line of like not fitting in anywhere from the moment I was a little kid, like going through like preschool and school, and as an adult, young adult, not understanding how other people could just so easily sort of fit into society and have jobs or relationships and just go through life and just, make money and that's it. And so I made that be about me, thinking that there was something horribly wrong with me, like I just wasn't a good fit for this life, and I just didn't measure up. So it wasn't until I found this book by Dolores Cannon that I saw something reflected in my environment that really spoke of who and what I knew to be true. And it's this whole part of me and of how I see life that I hadn't found anywhere else. I was raised as a Catholic for a little bit, and then I wasn't around a lot of sort of beliefs or philosophies. And so when I first saw this, it really kind of like resonated, and I wanted to explore more of it, and that's what I did. So I was able to train with Dolores Cannon. This is back in 2006 when she was still traveling the world and teaching people. And I had read some of her books by the time I took her class, and I was just totally like fangirling over her. I couldn't believe that what this woman had sort of done in her life, what she had explored, and that she was such a spokesperson for these other dimensional existences that we all, from my experience now, we all are part of. So what I learned is that a large part of who I am coming into this life, into this body on the planet, contains a lot of that sort of material where I thought in the past that I just didn't fit in and I was all wrong. I'm actually here to kind of like go through the journey of recovering these bits and pieces of myself and then helping others to do the same thing for them, to kind of like get people into their magic. And the work that I do now is really, it lends itself to that so well, QHHT.
Wow. And just for those listening that aren't familiar with hypnosis or QHHT, can you break down for us what it is?
Yeah, it's a really cool technique that Dolores Cannon developed. I mean, I'm so glad that and so grateful that she did this work. She is one of the pioneers into this field next to Brian Weiss, who you mentioned earlier, and then there's two others. But Dolores Cannon, the only woman, and she did this. I mean, from a background, she was in the Bible Belt in Arkansas, and she created this beautiful technique that allows people to tap into their soul. So it uses hypnosis for people to reconnect to themselves, and it works from the paradigm that we're all part of source or goddess or creator, whatever word you like to use for that. And in a QHT session, you recover bits of your identity that are part of you in this lifetime by going through these other lifetimes that you're connected with. And people come out of it feeling more like themselves, more authentic, more free, more at peace. And a lot of physical and emotional ailments can be released in those sessions. It's really remarkable. So it's about a 4-hour session, and people bring in a list of questions regarding their lives. It can be anything from, small questions about, I don't know, small questions, what's going on with my leg or something, or, what's my life's purpose, spiritual experiences that people might have had, questions about relationships, why were they raised in this particular family, why did all the violence and abuse happen? I mean, it can be anything. And then first we would just sit and talk about a person's current life, go over their questions, and then get them comfortable on a massage table or a couch and lead them through the induction. And then we'll explore one or more different lifetimes. And then I switch to talking to a person's higher self and get their questions answered. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I was just about to ask, yeah, like who are the conversations with, but it sounds like it's with themselves. Just like a deep regression into their memories. Is that accurate?
Well, yeah, in the end, it's gonna be their true self. We call it the higher self. It's your soul, really. But all kinds of other things can happen in a session. Like alien beings can come in, guides and angels sometimes speak. I can't think of anything else right now, but the options are endless. It's really,
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I'm a Gemini and I don't like routine. And so for me, it's like watching a different episode of some crazy like sci-fi Netflix series every day. And it really,
Yeah. I was going to ask too. One of the questions I was dying to know is you do this all the time. So you see and hear, all these wonderful miracles and things coming from people as they're going through this discovery process. Is there anything that stands out to you as like a really cool moment or a story that you're just so thrilled with?
I mean, it's been so many. I've been doing this for 18 years. It's kind of become like normal, this sort of metaphysical stuff. Let me think if there's anything that's recently. I mean, I'm really interested in the history of humanity. Like just a session that I had a couple days back, I encountered a man in her current lifetime. She's a woman, but she was a man as a Neanderthal, and described that her state of being was it was less sort of in the head than we are used to. And it was more of a beingness. It was such calm. And the people that she was with, the other Neanderthals, um, they lived life like they communicated telepathically. And it was more of a beingness, being in the body. And then suddenly it starts telling me about that they had contact with these beings from the stars that they had talked to. And they had been offered to change, but they didn't want to change. But other groups in the area were, in contact with these star beings and came back different. And it looked like, they became Homo sapiens and they were able to, they would speak more and it would be more in their heads. So, I mean, to me, that's always really cool. But I mean, the biggest case that I've been part of that's now it's been picked up to be made into a movie by Halle Berry's production company, is the case with a client who came into my office, and she told me that her son started telling her at age 2 that he used to be a tall German baseball player. And she was from a Christian background, had no idea about reincarnation. So at the beginning, she would correct him, thinking, you want to be a tall German baseball player? But finally came to the conclusion when she would take him out to different like baseball places, and the kid would have comments on how things used to be different when he was alive before, that there was more going on than just a kid's imagination. And he had told her that she used to be his mom in that lifetime, but that he remembered being up on a cloud and seeing her down there and saying, I'm going to be with her again. And so she came into my office, and the way that I work, I don't tell a person what life to go into. I just leave it up to their higher self because it's the authority over their consciousness. It knows best what's best for them. But we ended up exploring the life of Christina Garrick, Lou Gehrig's mom. And she had a very detailed recall. And this was kind of at the beginning of my career. I was still not really trusting that whatever would come through was like authentic information, that it wasn't sort of made up. And so I tried to like ask lots of sort of sneaky questions about very random trivial stuff in Christina Garrick's environment that Kathy couldn't have researched. Kathy is the name of my client. And so she came up with everything, and we were able to like research, or she did most of the research this, and everything down to like a little necklace that she was given and that she had given down to her daughter. The way it looked like, it was a little bird with a diamond eye. It was all real, and it was like lived
Wow.
information. She went to the East Coast and checked this with still living descendants and relatives, and everything was true. So that's one of the more, I mean, because it's just fantastic when this information kind of connects to our physical lived experience. I mean, and then there's all the, like the alien experiences that are so varied and wonderful that those are my favorite sessions, really.
Wow. Yeah, I'm really fascinated right now about history in general of the planet. Like I've been going down rabbit holes about time before the Great Flood and Atlantis and like what are some of these things just because of my own I haven't done a past life regression session with you. I did try the sample that you do. I think it's like a 45-minute or hour long session that you do in a group setting, and that was wonderful, and I definitely want to go deeper with you, so I'm coming to schedule an appointment with you for sure. But during my plant medicine journeys, I was very clearly told that I was a previous warrior queen, and I was shown me in battle multiple times over and over and over in many, many lives. And it was very profound for me. I actually have the experience on video. So since that moment, I've been going down these rabbit holes because I had a kind of a reactivation of the DMT, about a week after I came back from my plant medicine retreat. And during that reactivation, I just got kind of this vision that I was alive before the Great Flood and what the world looked like at that time. And it was really profound for me. I mean, and I was someone prior to the plant medicine retreat where I wasn't really religious. I never really went to church, and didn't really have any opinion one way or another on anything with spiritualness in any form or regard. And ever since I went through my retreat, it's like a doorway has been opened where it's like showing me there's a lot of stuff out there to be discovered. The world is so much bigger and greater. The universe is so much more complex than we can even fathom. And so now I'm just going down these rabbit holes, learning about just the possibilities of the fact that yes, you can have had multiple lives. So wow, it's so fascinating. During your journeys that you've been experiencing with your clients, has there been any themes over the past 18 years that have come up that you hear a lot, whether that's messages or important things that humanity needs to know or should know to help us evolve as a species? I'd love to hear any thoughts on that.
I mean, so many. There's I've started to identify patterns in people's lives, the people that I work with. And the pattern is, so far with all of us, that we come in as souls having full access to knowing that we are part of source or creator. And then, because we end up with a set of parents and a society that is still very survival based and fear based, that bit by bit we lose access to these magical bits of ourselves, and we start to believe that we have to fit into whatever mold we're given as to like how to do life as a man or a woman, in order to be able to survive. And in doing so, we lose relationship to ourselves. We lose connection to who we truly are. And we start living in our mind and through the concepts that the world has given us. And that is not, being in a authentic relationship to yourself. And then, life goes along. People learn how to do survival and they access some creature comforts if they make some money and they have some status and they feel kind of safe. But having to throw lots of energy at maintaining this. And then life starts to complain, or their body starts to complain. They have a crisis one way or another. It can be, a loss of a person or money or health or mental health. And this crisis has been designed for a person to stop sort of coasting along in life and to be forced to be with themselves. The feelings are so difficult and so shitty that they can't no longer Netflix it away or drink it away or fuck it away or, drug it away. They have to focus inward and start healing. And so this is also what my path has been like. And then as people go on this journey and are willing to really be with themselves and hear themselves and see themselves in ways that our society and our parents and our peers haven't been able to do so, they discover that there's a whole divine being there with very unique qualities and aspects. And people find out that they're here to live as that being, as opposed to the watered down version that fits into society. Now, this is the pattern that I've observed because I talk about people's lives before they go into their regression. But what I'm hearing over and over as a sort of guideline from the higher self, how to do this, it's always about loving yourself. Loving yourself. And then when I ask about that, how can so-and-so do this when she wakes up in the morning? She knows she's got to love herself, because it can be so abstract, what the hell does that mean? And so it always gives me guidelines to spend time in nature, because nature does not require us to show up as anything but what we truly are, because that's how it shows up. It's not concerned with fitting into any kind of boxes or anything. Connecting with that energy is really healing. And then what else? So meditation is really important. Call it meditation, but really what it means is solitary time spent by yourself where you can feel and hear yourself, to hear your thoughts, to feel your feelings, and to reconnect with yourself. So whatever that might look like, you might do a traditional meditation or a walking meditation or a dance meditation, whatever it is. And then also to follow your joy, and not the joy that comes from working out in the gym really hard and then wearing a cute outfit and then posting it on Instagram and getting lots of likes. But the joy, I call it joy just for fuck's sake. Joy that doesn't cost anything. Joy that just feels good because it does to you. It might be I'm sitting here in my room and I see the sun coming through the window and I see the trees out there and the sun shining through the green of the trees. Or it can be being with your animals, or dancing or singing or drawing or writing, creative expression. Those are other ways of relating back to yourself. And also, to give yourself as many of those moments as possible, because the more that you put yourself in experiences of joy, the more you get to know yourself as such. And then it becomes easier to be sort of inoculated to the codependent situations in our lives, like being in jobs or being with bosses or partners or spouses or situations that really don't feel good to us, but because we think that we have to do this, we think we have to be a good partner or a good mom or a good employee, we have to be loyal because of our traumatic upbringing, we just, we kind of stick it out. And that's not what we're here for. As we start to love ourselves, the universe responds in kind, because it always shows up reflecting what our inner reality is. If our inner reality is one of self-abandonment, self-neglect, being closeted in whatever way. And I'm not saying this as a finding fault in that you're doing this. This is what we have been taught. This is not our fault. But nobody can recover these bits and pieces but ourselves. So it will always show us through the narcissistic partners or the asshole bosses or difficult experience in lives, what are the parts of ourselves that we still have to love? And then once that's done, we don't have to deal with that anymore. And this is what growth is and healing is. And when we become more authentic, more of that will start to show up. We'll find our tribe in life. We will find the jobs or the way that we make money that feels really good. It feels like play to us. And we will be choosing this over and over and over again. And, I've seen this. This is still an ongoing journey in my own life because there's ever more to discover. But in all of my clients and my friends, it's really kind of a magical experience, if you ask me.
Wow, it sounds just so deep and ongoing. In terms of coming back life after life after life, is there an end point to that, or do we just keep coming back?
Yeah, there is an endpoint. Yeah, so what I've learned from doing this work is that we live in a benevolent universe and that our soul always opts into these experiences, even if for a while it might seem like part of our soul is trapped, in this sort of karmic cycle. It's still a chosen experience to go through it, to have all this learning take place. Like Earth is a coveted spot because there's so much contrast and such low density vibrationally that learning things here has a big impact. Like it's like a fast track for like soul growth. So at some point you'll phase out because you've done all the experiences that you wanted to learn, and then it's time to go somewhere else. And this is another thing that's the information that comes through sessions over and over again. And if you've read any of Dolores's books, you'll recognize this, that we're now currently going through a phase of spiritual awakening on the planet. And the sort of the cliff notes of it is that we're moving from a sort of patriarchal mind-based existence more into a heart-based existence, and that all the upheavals that we're going through right now, it's like squeezing the zit, getting all the shit out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for sure. The information I've been seeing online, like YouTubes and podcasts I listen to and stuff, I've just been going crazy since I got home from my retreat on wanting to soak up as much information as I could. Everyone's talking about this golden age and this period of awakening. What does that look like? Is it just people are having profound traumas in their life at this point that are forcing them to have these awakenings, or is there something more spiritual and natural in nature? I just don't know how to describe it. You're talking to just a brand new born baby into this space. So I don't really know how to describe some of these things, but I know for my audience too, these are going to be new concepts for them. So as much as you can break it down for us, what this new golden age is and what this spiritual awakening is for the planet, I would love your insight.
So, through the sessions that I've done, the Earth has always been ascending at our own pace, and people were sort of lagging behind. And when the atomic bomb was dropped in the Second World War, lots of sort of alien groups kind of got together and became alarmed because, we found the matches, we might burn ourselves down. And so what was decided is that because they can't have like direct interference, so they can't just like park their spaceship overhead and to the bullhorn say, "Hey, people, wake the fuck up! You can't do this." But what was decided is that they would get their boots on the ground by incarnating with a lot of this sort of energy from other planets and galaxies that have gone through these periods of upheaval, and they're at a higher level, if you will. And so to bring that vibration here onto this planet to help raise it. And so that's been going on. Dolores Cannon had identified 3 waves of volunteers. The first one came right after Second World War, and they kind of did the footwork. And then the next generation was my generation. I'm from 1971. And then the later generations, ever higher frequencies bringing in. And this is part of why there are so many people with like neurodivergency, ADHD, and autism. And this is why there are more people being vocal about their non-gender conformity. These are all the new souls that are coming in with a higher frequency that are the way showers for a new paradigm where there is no judgment on who you are as a human being. And because we're all connected through the heart. There's no, as we are releasing ourselves of our own inner judgment through dealing with the traumas, what we come to find out is that we are source. It's a visceral experience. And so once you do that, you realize that everyone else, and not only people, but animals and the environments, things seen and unseen, everything is. And just as you will have seen how your inner traumas and your inner negative self-talk has been harming you and not wanting to perpetuate that, nor will you want to perpetuate harm done to your fellow human beings, to the planet, to animals. And so then the solutions that we find for sustaining ourselves on this planet it will no longer be acceptable to have there be any kind of violence and exploitation and extraction be part of it, because we will be coming from a place of caring and stewardship towards each other and towards the planet. So what that looks like in terms of how society functions, I don't know, but it's a wisdom from the heart, and it's not from the mind, and it's one of being connected and being compassionate and loving. That's what I feel. I have memories from places that I've lived or that I'm living in a different dimension, and it's possible. This is where I think we're going.
Wow. One of the things that I'm fascinated about right now, just government wise, is, for years, everywhere you would look, people would be called crazy if they suggested that they'd had any kind of alien contact. And only recently, in the last couple of years here, we now have the Space Force. The government has literally put together a task force on identifying UFOs and researching what's going on. You've got countless pilots coming out and saying that they've had interaction with these entities in the sky, and they're trying to catch up with them. They pop out of nowhere, they show up in this zone of the world, and then within minutes they're in this other zone of the world, so they move very rapidly. So there's a lot of talk and a lot of buzz going on in the news and in the government about aliens. And so I'm really fascinated to hear you bring up aliens now. I know you mentioned that they're not necessarily supposed to interact with us. Just really quickly, Bob Lazar, for those of you at home that aren't familiar, he was a whistleblower just over 30 years ago as someone who was working in the, I think it was Area 51 or something like that, where they have these crafts that they don't even know how old they are, but they're so far technologically advanced that they operate with their mind. There's no wires, there's no wiring or fuel that we can recognize. They have elements in them that are not from this planet. And everyone called Bob Lazar crazy, and they ruined his life. And then 30 years later, they just published all of these records validating everything he had said 30 years ago. And I'm just surprised it's not a bigger deal. It's not more in the news and more being talked about, but these are facts. These are things that anybody can go online right now and research, and they're published by the government. So these are verified pieces of information. What do you think is going on there in terms of us getting more engagement now? And I don't know if it's fair to even say it's more. Maybe we're just now acknowledging it, this engagement from the alien populations.
I know, of course, a limited amount of it, but there seems to be sort of a program for open contact in place, depending on kind of what timeline we're going on with the planet, to become galactic citizens once we are more in control of our self, once we're more heart-based. And in touch with our sort of magical bits and pieces. Once you start connecting to yourself, you start connecting to your environment, to nature, and you'll be connecting to ever more subtle spaces of it. You'll get to know yourself on those different dimensions, and this is where you'll meet these other beings and other life that's present on all of these dimensions. And so that's what it seems to be, that we're on a pathway to open contact, where we are galactic citizens. There seems to be so many different options that we can take regarding that. I think it's really cool. I used to be one of those people as a kid, looking at the stars, oh, come take me home,
Yeah, beat me up, Scotty. Beat me up. Yeah, no, I love that. I'm just so fascinated right now. Obviously, when you start talking about past lives and history, there's so many routes you could go down. Lately, I've been called really heavily towards Egyptian history and even indigenous cultures. When I had my first round of psilocybin. It was a 10-hour journey from it. It was very long. And in that, I had these beings that were around me in the vision. There's no way my brain could have concocted what it was. Like it was so far out of the norm or anything I had seen before. And they didn't look human. There was no skin color. And I mean, I actually drew a picture of them. I'll slip it into the video when I publish this for YouTube, so you guys can see at home. But like there's just no way that it's humans. I'm just so fascinated now about all these different things. And, I've been reading all kinds of books and watching all kinds of YouTube content on the history of even Egypt, that the humans as we know it didn't make or acquire some of the technology or the structures that are there. These were made by potentially aliens that were on the planet before we were, which is really fascinating. Have you had any clients talk about this at all? I would love to hear your insights there.
Yeah. I forget like the ones that have happened further back, but one that was more recent. I was asking her about the Sphinx. What was the deal with the Sphinx? Why was that the original phase? Why was it damaged? And she said the original Sphinx was made with a sort of human cat hybrid face, and it was to honor the connection that we had at the time, or Egyptians had, with the Lyrans. These are cat sort of feline beings, very advanced, and that underneath the Sphinx was this whole tunnel system connecting with the pyramids, but also this room where lots of artifacts are kept, and it's very protected. Only people of a certain frequency can enter it. And I asked, like, why are these artifacts protected, or why are they no longer accessible? And it said because a lot of them are to communicate with the different races in the universe, and that we were just not ready for it yet. So, but that they will be uncovered at some point. So, yeah. And
Wow.
whenever I go into, I mean, I don't know what years it is, but I had a client who went into a life as Hatshepsut, some Egyptian princess, a woman. There was sort of inequality in the society, that women are, not in sort of leading positions, but she was able to navigate that, and sometimes like dress up as a man, and did lots of good things for society. She built lots of things, and but she also mentioned that it was very normal that there were other beings from other places that they would be interacting with. Yeah, that was kind of normal in their society, and it's not that long ago. It's not. I mean, it is thousands of years, but it's not like 75,000 years ago. It's not that long ago that we had more contact. That was more of a thing, and also that we had still abilities like telekinesis, or being able to create things with sound, and have telepathy.
Wow. It was something interesting you just said about sound. I found this woman online who demonstrates through photography the power of sound. She has a rapid freezing process where she'll play like beautiful music, and the water will literally change composition and structure. She'll photograph it, and then she'll do it in a different environment. She'll take it to like ancient Egypt or other places around the world, and she puts the like a petri dish of water on these structures, and then she does this flash photography, and the water changes composition every single time. And she'll say things to it, she'll sing to it, and she just demonstrates the power of water and how it changes structure. So that's super fascinating, obviously, just what the power of vibration and frequency can do. And obviously that's been demonstrated even in scientific projects, like speaking negatively or positively to plants, and how they can thrive or fail, or even the food, right? There's all these compositional changes. So that's so fascinating, just how complex and crazy the world is. And then the other thing that I found so crazy is the structures that are around the world in completely opposite sides of the planet, in America, and then Egypt, or in Asia, or, just all these different places. But like, there's these really similar structures. Oh gosh, Graham Hancock talks about this a lot. Just that the technology that we claim, if we're going off of the timeline that we're taught in history books, that we didn't even have the tools for it at that time. So to your point about having, advanced technology or the ability to communicate or act in different ways, it's clear, like we have this evidence all around the world that that's the case. When would you say roughly that is? Do you think it was like before the Great Flood, or is this something that has been even more recent since the Great Flood?
I think it's more recent that we were able to do those things. Yeah. Like the buildings that are in Peru and in Sardinia, and that, like you said, they try to figure out how they were created because even with the technology that we have now, it's not possible to make such like fine, like detailed work. But it seems like it was even later. And even in sessions, I came to find out that there have been groups of people that have been living in sort of, I call it bubbles of magic, where there was more connectivity to nature and to the energies of nature and being able to work with it. The what has been called the witches, they were a big part of that. They were still able to have telepathy, speak with animals, work with the healing forces of nature. But that happened, these bubbles existed even though the majority of Earth was going a different way up until the Industrial Revolution, and then it just left. And we're now recovering that magic within all of us, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm like, I want some magic over here for sure. Using this tool, the QHHT, as a healing modality, what are some of the healing effects that one could expect coming to a session with you post session?
It's so varied. Yesterday, a woman came in and she had mentioned that there was something going on with her lungs and then something below her ribs. She didn't know what it was. And so the higher self, we asked her to do a body scan. And so found out that the lungs were like compounded grief, or I forgot what the specifics were. And then under her rib cage was the pancreas was not functioning well because she had lost all the sweetness in her life, all the love was gone. And so it healed both things, but there was also guidelines for her, like to change her lifestyle or to focus on different things in order to bring that sweetness back. She had to do certain things for herself. But then it mentioned something that she hadn't mentioned to me before going into this work, that there was something going on with her left eye. And I asked, well, what's going on there? And it said, well, she had glaucoma surgery, and when they put the lens back in, it was done wrong. And so it was out of alignment somewhere. And I was always asked, well, can you help with that? And so it said, yes. And it goes quiet. I ask it, let me know when it's done. And then I ask, well, what did you do for her? Oh, I just pushed it back. It's like, oh, okay. And what will she notice? Like, she won't notice it anymore. It'll just be functioning, well. And so I count her out. She had no recollection of the session, or barely any. And then I tell her about this, and she goes, oh my God, yes, I did have that surgery. And she goes, and I can't feel it. And normally she would feel the lens, like it was kind of like an irritation, but she couldn't feel it anymore. And the pain underneath her rib cage was gone as well. So there are physical healing that can take place in sessions once people find out why it's there. Most of the time there is like a soul growth reason for it, to bring awareness to a certain aspect of our self that we have been taught to neglect or not value. So, I mean, you might hear this a lot in sort of spiritual circles, that you create your reality. And so if you create a disease, it's your fault, kind of. Like, I don't believe that. It's just we have such of a rough experience here on the planet that we just lose access to what we truly are. And then the body in our life just wants to rebalance it. And sometimes these harsh experiences are the only experiences that will get through to us to start paying attention. So there always seems to be a reason for, like, I had a woman who was going through breast cancer, and the higher self said, well, actually this breast cancer is her friend because she doesn't know how to love herself, and she's been doing well. She's been on the path now of doing this now. So we will take the cancer away, but if she falls off the wagon and starts being codependent again, or like doing not honoring herself, then it will come back as a reminder. So, I mean, even though these horrible things happen in our lives, it seems to be, from the perspective of the soul, it seems like we live in a benevolent universe where all the experiences that we have are opted into from the perspective of the soul, not the human perspective, and that they have a purpose, that they're there to help us expand and become more of who we came here to be.
Wow. Some of the spiritual circles that I've been listening to lately, even Dolores, I think she talks about soul contracts and how we have these missions or purposes, things that we're going to accomplish or do, people we're going to engage with when we come into each of our lives. Do you think diseases and, things like anxiety, depression, et cetera, are they things that we pre-selected, or are they things that we're picking up along our spiritual journey when we come here?
That's a good question. I think they can be both. So for a lot of people now, anxiety has been the sort of dynamic that our culture has picked up about, like, not honoring our feelings. Like we live in a very sort of mind-based society, and like my parents and generations before that, they were so busy with survival. There was no time really to really dive in and see, well, who are you? What do you want? What are you doing? It was all about, no, you're a woman, go, go to the kitchen. You're a man, go outside and hunt, or whatever it is, this fucked up shit that, we used to be told. And so the people that are coming in with anxiety or depression, I think a lot of it is to end that sort of suffering and to have the experience be so big and uncomfortable, so we will start looking for other solutions to it. We can't just, move forward in life the way that our parents and our grandparents did. We have to access, like, therapy, plant medicine, QHHT, breath work, somatic work, whatever it is that we can do to regain a sense of self and to reconnect with our feelings. Like, we've been taught that our feelings are superfluous. We've been trying to run the race with, like, half of our sense of self missing. We are all feeling beings, and if you have been taught to deny all those bits and pieces, they will start to protest at some point. And so I think, people that are anxious or depression, they're really the way showers for other people to start to reconnect with that part of themselves as well.
You're trained in so many different modalities, and I know that you still explore even new further ones. I think I saw like an Instagram post or something with Malibu Medium or something recently. I don't know if I have her Instagram handle right, but I think like that kind of stuff is so fascinating to me. Are there any? Do you select a modality that you're going to use, like Reiki healing, or do you do that in each session, or how do you decide like what modalities are the best for the client that is working with you?
So now I solely work with QHHT.
Oh, okay, great.
I do like random energy healings on, like, friends or so many books, but it's rare because I find that QHHT is more sort of all encompassing. It works on many different levels, and it's the most fun for me. So yeah, that's what I just do on a full-time basis.
Wow. And I think you said in an example that you just gave about one of your clients that they had forgotten, but I know you offer to record it on your website. Does anyone come out just remembering everything, or is this something that, they don't typically recall the information when they're coming out?
Yeah, no, most people do remember, especially nowadays. More people are quite awake and aware throughout their whole process. There's about maybe 10% of the population that is wired in ways where the first time they do this work, they'll drop off completely and they have no recollection of it. But yeah, we're all kind of different in the way that we're wired. So it's kind of not QHHT that forces you in this particular spot. It just helps you to reconnect with yourself. And it might feel like, I'm here and I'm aware and I know myself, this higher self part, or they might be completely out of the equation and not remember. And neither one is better than the other because both get the healing work done.
Amazing. And then for someone who, after hearing this podcast that may be interested to do a session, whether that's with you or if they don't live nearby or can't travel, are there ways to find a reputable person who can do this work with them to go into their past lives and, unpack the messages that are there for them?
Sure, yes. So QHHT is only done in person, and you can find local practitioners all over the world now by going to QHHTofficial.com. And then you just scroll down and use their Find a Practitioner feature. It's like a little drop down. You can select the country, the city, and then just see who's around. There's different levels of practitioners. Sorry, my cat's just putting his nails in my legs.
I wish he would come and make an appearance on the show.
Yes,
What's your cat's name? Oh, thank you. What's his name?
Kitty.
Just Kitty, so cute. He's like a little Oreo cookie for those at home.
Yes,
He's a black and white cat, so beautiful.
So QHHT official, and then you can find somebody in your area. If you don't have a budget, work with the interns that have just learned to do the technique and they're still practicing. And then there's different levels. The higher the level, the more experience. But I would just go through and look at the different profiles and see who you're vibing with, and just go with that person. Yeah.
Amazing. And then, is there anything that people could do or should do to attune themselves kind of to get ready for a session, or when they're done with a session, how do they keep in touch with their higher self, or, keep the momentum going of healing that they've just done while working with you?
Yeah, so they usually get instructions, and it is about the things that I kind of mentioned earlier, like finding joy, and do as much of it as you can. Take yourself into places where you feel joyful. So instead of like forcing yourself to feel joy in like a shitty job or in an ugly environment, take yourself out of it and go to a beautiful spot, nature. Um, what else? Yeah, the general advice is to love yourself. Um, but yeah, people come out with like a viscerally changed experience of themselves. So it's like not connecting the dots for their conscious mind, but it's more of a shift within themselves. So they feel different, and they will navigate life in a different way from that feeling of having more access to yourself. They'll be more aware when they're going into situations that are not self-honoring or don't feel good, because now they can really hear and see their feelings and make different decisions than they were making before.
Amazing. Thank you. And the last couple of questions I have here. So my whole show is designed around mental health, and what started off as like military transitional support. And we're still very much so doing that work. So we talk a lot about like those that are in crisis, where they're really struggling and they don't know if they're going to see tomorrow. Do you have any advice as someone who's worked so heavily in the spiritual space and the healing space for such a long time now, for someone who's truly in just crisis mode? Are there any tips or tricks to help shift them at least to a stable point so they can get some help? And anything that you have advice wise for those that are really having a hard time would be so great.
Yeah, that's difficult. So I mean, I do believe in the use of like Western medicine for crisis situations. Depression is part of my mental health issues. And so when I was in a place where I was having suicidal ideations, I used like traditional, like an SSRI and something to help me sleep, just get over the hump, and then to start working on myself and reassess like what happened, why did I get into this spot. And what I found out is that I was overcompensating out of a sense of unworthiness. And so that really forced me to change the way that I was, like in my sessions, in life with people, and to have better boundaries. So, I mean, I do believe in using those medications and then go on a journey so you can be stable, and then go on a journey of self-discovery, like through QHHT, plant medicine, breath work, somatic work, all that stuff. But at least you're in a state where you don't feel like you want to jump out of the window, because it's hard to like do self-assessments in those states.
Yeah, and for those of us that are new to healing work and modalities, what is somatic work?
Oh, somatic work is you work with a practitioner and you kind of do a body scan and you see where there's feelings or sensations, and then you kind of see what's underneath it. So what we found out is that unexpressed needs and emotions, they just get locked into the musculature of the body, and they create energy disturbances or blockages, and they cause you to lose access to yourself. And so somatic work is a way back into it, where it's also like parts work, where you find those parts that were denied or neglected or abandoned, and then to love on them in ways that our society or parents and peers couldn't love us growing up, to kind of see and hear those parts, and to bring them back into a sort of a unified whole of who you are. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. I just recently started reading a book called The Body Keeps a Score. And it's really fascinating just how much is stored in the body. When I went through my Bufo sessions, I had what can only be described as an exorcism, just the craziest body release. My body was moving in ways, and I had no memory of it except for the fact that I have it on video. But it was truly just like pushing out and releasing all of this energy and this trauma that I've had apparently from multiple lifetimes. And it was extremely releasing. I remember coming out of that, for those of you that are at home that don't know, the Bufo sessions last roughly about 15 to 20 minutes. And when I came out of that session, I just could breathe so deeply for the first time in my life. It just felt like everything was clear. And I'm still breathing so deeply today. Thank you to those sessions. So definitely encourage doing somatic work and healing yourself and releasing some of that energy. Do you recommend multiple sessions for people doing past life regression work, or is it just kind of like a one intense, 4 to 6 hour session, as you mentioned, and then they're quote unquote good? Or is this something that's repeating for people?
It's designed as a single session, but then people often come back like a year or 3 years later when things have changed so much, and then they just want a new sort of assessment of what's happening, of connecting with my guides, and now all this is happening, and I need to find out like what the hell's going on. So people will come back, but it's designed as a single thing, so not as a series of 10 or anything.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Well, where can people find you? I mean, I'm coming for sure. But where can other people find you so they can do some of this magical healing work with past life regression?
Yeah, I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm in the San Fernando Valley, right between Sherman Oaks and Studio City. It's called Valley Village. Most people don't know about it. And so you can find me on Instagram. My handle is my first name, which is Jeroen. And then my affirmation is love. So Jeroen is love. This is where you can find me. And it will have all the links, like in the Linktree thing, where you can like check my website, YouTube, TikTok, all the other stuff. And then also book an appointment. My website is Jeroen QHHT. I'm booked out usually a few months. So if you're thinking about doing a session, it's best to book now. So because you're still going to have to wait for a few months.
Amazing. And I will hyperlink everything underneath all of the show notes here so you guys can go and click and add and follow. And I would definitely encourage following him on Instagram for sure, because I just did so recently. And he's also got a group that he adds really great content into as well. So join the group on Instagram, and we will definitely connect and maybe do a round 2 after we do our session. So I can,
Amazing.
yeah,
Yes.
it'd be really cool. We got to film it and let people in to see what the magic is like. Your website's great too, because you're on your website, you do have several different YouTube videos that kind of explain things a little bit more deeply. So for those that are really interested in doing a past life regression session, he does have some amazing content on his website to check out that will explain it, so you can get some more information. Is there anything else you want to say other than that? I just thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm also doing like group regressions, and they can be done online. So there's usually like once or twice a month, and you can also find those on my Instagram page to sign up for them.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and telling us a little bit more about QHHT and past life regression work. Very fascinating conversation. Cannot wait to do this again. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to working with you in person.
Thank you. See you later. Bye, guys.